Welcome into Marketology for Monday, March 19th. We're in the midst of March Madness, and we got one of the best bookmakers this fine country has to offer, Matthew Holt, VP at CG Technology, to get a look at from the other side of the counter, see how the books did this weekend. Matt, let's not waste any time, man. Welcome in. How you doing How you doing Monday after the first weekend of March Madness?
I'll tell you, it was bagels for the boys this morning, Drew. This was one of the best first 4 days I can ever remember for the books.
So a bunch of huge upsets, obviously, or I'm guessing not obviously, but the money coming in, it definitely helped your side of the counter, big weekend profit-wise for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Look, I mean, just to put it into perspective, March Madness brings in 4 times as much dollars wagered in the first 4 days than the Super Bowl even does. So there's just an unbelievable amount of betting volume and an unbelievable amount of people making bets on March Madness who probably haven't bet a college basketball game for the entirety of the regular season that are suddenly in town, suddenly making all these bets, and they want to bet on the popular teams. And let's face it, it was not a good first 4 days for the popular teams. North Carolina gone, number 1 Xavier gone, number 1 Virginia gone, number 2 Cincinnati gone. Look at in that one region, number 1 Virginia gone, number 2 Cincinnati gone, number 3 Tennessee gone, number 4 Arizona, who was an extremely popular pick heading into the tournament, gone. I mean, it is just Michigan State, one of the favorites all season long to win this thing, gone. So it has been absolute mayhem here. And anytime all those big name teams win, it can only be, lose, it can only be good for the.
And Matt, what about I guess early on in the first round with Virginia going down against Maryland, Baltimore County? Can you talk about the action on that game and how that affected you?
Look, the 1s versus 16s in the first round historically aren't very good for betting because the point spreads are so big, and even the general public tend to shy away from high point spreads. I will say this: I think we took the biggest bet in town, which was an $800 bet at 20-1 on University Maryland, Baltimore County. And if $800 is the biggest bet taken on a money line, it just goes to show you how little action there was, considering there's probably 7 figures bet on the game in town.
So on that particular game, did you guys take a loss overall?
No, we didn't.
Okay,
No.
so you covered up and made more on all the other bets than had to pay out that one money line?
Yes.
Okay, and what about any single game, I guess, throughout the whole weekend that you took a loss on? Are there any that maybe you took a bigger loss than others?
Yeah, there were a couple that we actually did take a loss on. Everybody was on College of Charleston, plus the points versus Auburn. Opened as high as 11, all the way down to as low as 8.5 by close. They only lost by 4. Never in doubt of covering. In fact, I think the game was tied with like a minute or 2 to go, and they end up losing by 4. But that was a really popular dog that got there. We lost money on that game. South Dakota State, another really popular first-round dog, opened around 9, closed around 7. They end up covering the spread there. Marshall in their first-round matchup against Wichita State, both money-lined in on the spread, a very popular dog. They end up winning that game outright. But you know, those losses didn't make up for the massive wins that we had at the book, with Arizona losing outright to Buffalo in the first round, Xavier losing to Florida State, Tennessee losing to Loyola Chicago, North Carolina losing outright to Texas A&M, and the biggest one for us, I mean, Michigan State losing outright to Syracuse. Just a monster win for the book.
And Matt, what about coming up to the Sweet 16? Any early action? I mean, Texas A&M, Michigan's an intriguing matchup. Well, we got Texas Tech, Purdue. Just the whole board is pretty interesting with all the upsets. It's not what a lot of people would have expected. However, interesting matchups to bet on. Anything the viewers need to know about as far as money coming in, or your thoughts on the Sweet 16 action?
Right out of the gate on Thursday, looks like Kentucky's getting bet heavy. Open 5.5, up to 6.5, maybe headed to 7 here. Some of it probably has to do with the injury woes to Kansas State, especially for Dean Wade. But I think a lot of it has to do with, let's face it, this is a Kentucky program now that in the one-and-done era is used to bringing in 6, 7, 8 new players every year. And it took this freshman class a little bit longer to get that continuity than it does some of the other freshman classes. And Kentucky ended up struggling a little bit more during the regular season than maybe most Kentucky fans would expect. This team's loaded with NBA talent, and they're really rolling right now, and the bettors are taking notice. And we're seeing a lot of action on the Wildcats. In fact, they are by far the most heavily bet team in the first four. As far as the Sharps, just do the Sharps like they like Texas A&M, and for good reason. That front court combination of Davis and Robert Williams down there is really tough to handle. While Michigan shoots the ball pretty well from outside the arc, and they have great defense, well coached with Coach Beeline, they're going to have their hands full on the offensive and defensive glass and trying to handle those two big guys in the middle. That one opened Michigan 3.5, down to Michigan 3. I wouldn't be surprised if this one's 2.5, maybe even 2 by the time we get to tip-off.
And guys, feel free to chime in on the live chat here. Any questions you want to ask Matt or myself about college basketball, really sports betting in general, any Vegas questions, feel free to throw them out here. Matt, what about betting NIT action? Anything you want to throw out for the viewers, maybe tonight, tomorrow night's card on NIT betting? And also, how much less is NIT, I guess, the handle on NIT rather than opening weekend of NCAA? Would you say 1/10? Is it 1/5?
I wish it was 1/10. I wish it was even 1/5. I mean, let's face it here. The average handle for us in a March Madness college basketball game is probably, somewhere between 700,000 to 1 million. The really popular games, 1.5 up to 2 million. Mm-hmm. The average handle tonight will probably be in like the $30,000 range. There's just not a lot of love for the NIT, especially tonight. And I'm sure some of it has to do with the fact that the bettors had such a bad first 4 days that a lot of them left kind of with their tail between their legs after those first 4 days. But interesting betting tonight. So USC opens 4, goes up to 5. There's some public action on USC, but the Sharps really like Western Kentucky here tonight, and I tend to agree. When your best player decides he doesn't even want to bother playing in this tournament, and that's the case for Chimezie Metu for USC. He decided he didn't even want to play in the NIT. They played a horrible UNC Asheville team in the first round and looked unmotivated. Barely got by. The announced attendance at USC's first home game in the NIT was 1,500 people. There was actually like 250 people in the building. I'm not sure there's going to be a ton more tonight. And if you're Western Kentucky, this is a team that was on the bubble of actually making the NCAA tournament as an at-large all year. This is a really good basketball team. Again, USC be without their best player tonight. They're already missing Benny Boatwright due to injuries. They've been missing Melton the whole year. It feels like the USC team, as we've seen by players, you can't give them full advantage if there's going to be less than 1,000 people. I think the underdog's really live tonight, and the bettors are taking notice of that.
And what did you guys open it at, and what are you at now? I see you guys are at 5 right now with 151 the total, right, Matt?
Yeah, we opened 4 last night, and a lot of public money pushed it up to 5. But since then, this morning, it's been pretty much nothing but sharp action on USC. If that line's going to move again, we're probably headed the other way, back down to 4.5.
Okay. Yeah, guys, feel free to chime in with any questions. We got Trenton, Nick, Giorgio, Salty in with questions. Matt, I'll just go down the line here, and if you don't have an opinion, feel free to say that. Jacksonville State at the half and under. Can you talk about this game? You have any opinion on this, NIT or CIT matchup with Jacksonville State Central Arkansas?
Yeah, this one's interesting. So Jacksonville State has kind of become the sexy, sharp pick of the CBI tonight, whatever you want to call it. Open pick 'em up to 2.5 on Jacksonville State right now. This is a team that got a lot of love in the the non-conference season before the Ohio Valley Conference started. They were playing pretty good basketball. They were kind of a covering machine outside of the Ohio Valley Conference. But once they got into conference play this year, a lot of people said, hey, maybe this is the year that Jacksonville State creeps up and challenges Murray or Belmont. That wasn't the case. They were nowhere near the level of a Murray or Belmont all year long in Ohio Valley Conference. They did come out, get the win in their first round of the CBI, and they're getting a lot of love tonight against Central Arkansas.
And Matt, I'm still going back to your question. So it was $30,000 a handle on a game and maybe say the NIT. And you said up to $1 million as far as handle on the big NCAA games. So it's not even 1/20th.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not even close. It's not even comparable in any way, shape, or form.
Man, interesting. I didn't realize it was that big of a drop off. Okay, we got another question on 619, 620, LSU, Utah, SEC Pac-12 matchup. Kind of interesting here. Looks like what you guys got 5 Utah, 148.5 the total. Anything on this game, Matt?
Yeah, let me look what we got. So it looks like over the counter, about 3.5 times more dollars wagered on LSU. Interestingly, though, on account, 96% of dollars wagered on Utah. So the sharper bettors, the account bettors, the guys that tend to bet more and more often, they like the Utes tonight, but the general public, tourist in the casinos walking up to the counter, they're on LSU. This one's turning into a little bit of a pros versus Joes game.
Okay. And that question was from Nicholas Newell. Thanks, Nick, for the question. Salty Dog asking, how much did the Isaac Haas injury affect the line for Purdue Texas Tech game? Do you have any opinion on that, Matt?
Well, let's start with how much it affected the Butler game first. So that line closed was around 3.5 consensus. I know I laid 3.5 on Last Man Standing, and that knocked me out of Last Man Standing. I put all my picks on it, so I'm a little bit salty to talk about Purdue since they eliminated me from Last Man Standing. But I thought it was a slight overreaction, really. The power rating said that game should probably be about 6.5, and it was all the way down to 3.5. Look, Haas is a great player. He's a monster in the middle. But he's not a great scorer, and he's not a great offensive player. And for as big and strong as he is, he's not actually the beast on the offensive glass that you might think he is. And we've seen in a lot of games this year, he tends to get in foul trouble early. Would it have been nice to have the big guy in the middle against the Texas Tech team that's a little bit undersized? Maybe, but this Texas Tech team is so fast and so athletic. I could see this as a game where Haas might have got himself in foul trouble early anyway. And now that Haas is out of the equation, the concept of making Edwards and Edwards more focal points of the offense and the defense might actually be a good thing for Purdue, especially in this one-game scenario against Texas Tech.
Yeah, that's an interesting angle. It might actually be a good thing. Matt, one question I had just off the top of my head before we started, do you notice that you get sharper action on the NBA this time of year, meaning like with all the focus on March Madness, the college game, maybe your bigger bettors concentrating more on NBA, knowing that all of your attention is going towards college basketball?
So on a day like today, yes. This week, probably, but over the weekend, no. So here's the problem. You have all these bettors in town to bet March Madness, and while they're mostly betting college basketball games, there's a large percentage of those that matriculate over into NBA, hockey, MMA, whatever else is going on. So the simple fact is all handle on all sports goes up on a weekend with so much betting activity like March Madness. But it'll be these days here where those people that are focused on March Madness, they're going to spend 3 straight days now breaking down the Sweet 16 matchups where the Sharps know we have to grind it out every day, and they're betting NBA. Look, interesting side note about the NBA, and I asked one of my analysts, and he didn't come back with an answer for me. Maybe somebody on your show has one. When was the last time in one single night on an NBA card you saw the Knicks as a 5-point favorite and the Golden State Warriors as a 7-point underdog?
If anybody knows the answer to that, feel free to chime in on the live chat. Or guys, if you're watching on replay, in the comments section, we'll be watching it. I definitely don't know that answer, Matt. I'm guessing you guys do over there.
I mean, it had to have been years. I mean, the Knicks a 5-point favorite and the Warriors a 7-point dog on the same night. I guarantee it's been years and not a month.
Yeah, no, it sounds correct. Well, Matt, anything you want to throw out there? Anything off the top of your head that you think people would be interested in?
Look, interestingly enough, baseball starts early this year. Everybody always thinks of April 1st kind of as the day where we get to MLB opening day. But this year, it's actually next Thursday. So a week from Thursday, the Major League Baseball season opens, which is earlier than normal. That's exciting stuff. Opening day of baseball has this lineage and history around it. It's opening day, right? It's different than any other sport. It's actually called opening day. And, basically with all the focus around the Sweet 16 this weekend, as soon as we get done this Sweet 16, we're going to be gearing up for baseball next week, and that's always an interesting time of year betting wise.
So opening day is on Thursday of next week.
Yeah, a week from Thursday is opening day of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, man, there's nothing like opening day. I mean, baseball, you know, a lot of people think it's boring or whatever, but opening day, it's about as American as it gets, you know? And then, well, we also got UFC next weekend, right, Matt?
Actually, we don't have another UFC card until April 7th, UFC 223, and it's an awesome card. And I think it's actually good. I wish UFC would do this a little more often. I don't like the 3-week gap, but it sure would be nice to have a week off ahead of these pay-per-views sometimes. Sometimes I feel like they roll through so many cards that people don't have a chance to catch their breath and focus on the big fights, the fights with superstars that actually make your brand go. And here we have an opportunity to really settle in and focus on a big card here. 2 title fights, Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Rose Namajunas in a rematch for the women's strawweight title. Tony Ferguson, Nurmagomedov fighting it out for the vacated lightweight title, vacated by Conor McGregor. This is a great fight. It's going to be, and it's an awesome card. It's loaded top to bottom. I wish it was in Vegas, but it's in New York. But it's nice to have that little build up to these big cards.
Hey, and UFC wise, just going off of what you just said, do you notice a bigger handle when the fight's in Vegas rather than at an outside of Vegas location?
100%, especially with the big pay-per-views. Let's face it, if you're in Vegas, and Vegas is so synonymous with betting, if you're in Vegas to watch the fight, I have to imagine, I don't know what the actual percentages is of people in attendance that bet the fights, but I have to imagine it's like 75% of the fans in attendance have a bet. Because why not? If you're staying at one of the hotels, you got to walk by the sportsbook to go out and go to the arena.
Yeah, and can they have your app in the arena making a bet while they're watching the fight?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the greatest thing about betting in Nevada. You can make a deposit at whatever casino you're staying at, go down to the arena. One of our biggest is Cosmo, the Cosmopolitan Las Vegas. It's right around the corner from T-Mobile. We have people do it all the time. They stay at the Cosmopolitan, they deposit some money there, they go to the arena and bet from their phone, whether they're watching UFC, Vegas Golden Knights, whatever it is.
Yeah, man. Cosmo.
And Vegas Golden Knights are as popular as I've ever seen a hockey team in any city right now. The Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas are really hot. If they win the Stanley Cup, every book is going to get buried in the futures market.
A lot of people watching this show are rooting for that, I'm sure. Hey, Matt, what about with the Raiders coming to town? Will you be able to make a bet at the Raiders game via your app?
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing with the Vegas Golden Knights at T-Mobile Arena. You'll be able to go out to the Raiders Stadium and sit on your phone and bet on the Raiders game. First half, second half, in-game wagering, everything.
Good old Roger Goodell isn't going to put a stop to that, maybe at least inside the stadium or something?
I know that there were some talks about him trying to put some limitations, like no in-game wagering in the stadium and stuff, but you can't control it. There's really no way to control it. So I think at the end of the day, they came to the realization that it's better to just embrace it than try to control it. And at this point, most of the leagues, as you've seen in the media the last few months, seem to have taken a kind of 180-degree turn on their stance on sports betting anyway.
Okay, cool, Matt. Hey, we got Nick in the live chat saying appreciate it, guys. Thank you, Nick. Salty Dog at Matthew Holt VP. Thanks for the feedback. Purdue grad here. I agree 100% with your assessment of Haas. We also got N16 saying get on the Bulls tonight plus free money. Giorgio, Denver Nuggets money line. Salty Dog, my Cubs first game.
I'm actually on the Nuggets money.
What's that, Matt?
Speaking of that, I never bet NBA. I mean, I love betting MMA. I love betting college basketball and college football, but I rarely bet NBA because I'm not very good at it. In fact, the joke in the office is, for me, NBA stands for no betting allowed. But I actually looked at the NBA card tonight, and I was like, look, Miami has this 8 seed locked up in the Eastern Conference, and Denver's fighting for a spot, and they're probably a better team anyway, and I actually bet the Nuggets tonight, money line. So for any guys watching the show that are on the board, if you bet Denver, sorry, but I'm on them too tonight.
which may be a good thing, maybe a bad thing, huh?
Probably a bad thing. I'm horrible at NBA, but I'm on the Nuggets money line.
And Matt, I guess maybe the last question here. Andrew in the chat box asking who you got winning the national title.
Look, it's going to be hard to beat Villanova at this point. And there's the one thing about beating Villanova that comes into your favor as well as beating Duke that might come into your favor is they actually have tough paths now. Duke has to go through a Syracuse team, which is probably a good matchup for Duke because they could shoot over the zone, no problem. But then they have to actually play Kansas to get to the Final Four. Same thing with Villanova. Tough game against West Virginia and then a tough game against the winner of Purdue, Texas Tech. So while they're overwhelming favorites, there could be some value. Whereas if you look on the other side right now, Kentucky has about as easy a path to the Final Four as there possibly could be. We know they have NBA talent because that's all Coach Cal recruits over there at Kentucky. Mm-hmm. And they got these kids playing the best basketball right now. Look, if you look at the odds, do you want to get 3-1 with Villanova or 350 with Duke or 7-1 with Kentucky? I think I would rather take my chances with a smooth path to the Final Four with Kentucky than I would with some of the bumpier paths with the big favorites in Villanova or Duke.
That's a great point. And the value-wise, getting, double the money with Kentucky over the other two.
Yeah.
And Villanova does have the extra time to prepare for that West Virginia press this weekend. But yeah, I agree with you. If I had to pick a team, value-wise, I might go with the Wildcats as well. But yeah, man,
it's not just the Virginia game. Think about this spot for Villanova. It's not just the West Virginia game, but the fact that you have to deal with West Virginia's press, which is always a tiring situation, turn around in 1 day with 1 day's rest and then face a really tough defensively Texas Tech or Purdue team. I think it could be the second game. I think Villanova might be able to slide by West Virginia and then surprise people and have trouble with the winner of Texas Tech Purdue on the quick turnaround.
Yeah, that's true. Texas Tech Purdue could give them some issues, but yeah, Matt, anything else you want to throw out there before we shut this down?
No, that's about it. It's a slow Monday. It was such a crazy weekend. The handle, the amount of action, everything was crazy. You know what I am interested in, and I do agree that this is one of the more busted brackets in a long time that we've seen with 2 1s, 2 2s, all these 4s and 3s going down. I'm going to be interested to see is what is the interest level in Loyola, Chicago, and Nevada, and some of these games now that aren't necessarily the teams that people be hoping to see. Are they still going to tune in to watch and bet on Loyola, Chicago, and Nevada?
Yeah, I remember something to do, an article I read a couple years back as far as Cinderellas go. If there's one Cinderella versus a powerhouse, the ratings are fine. But if it's 2 Cinderellas against each other, that's when the ratings start to drop a little bit. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I mean, we have a couple of those matchups, so it'll be interesting to see what the betting volume is like on these games this week.
Yeah, it will be exciting. It's an interesting Sweet 16 to bet. Nonetheless, we got MLB opening day right around the corner and a big UFC card coming up in a couple weeks as well, which Matt will be a part of here on SBR Picks. But guys, for Matt Holt, I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week, same time, same place.